Yes, hello all. In this video lecture, I'm going to explain you about the inverters. Right. So let us see the contents in our fourth unit. So this is all about the outline of this presentation. So we'll discuss one by one. First, in this lecture, I am going to explain about the inverters and its operating principle. The applications of it, everything I am going to discuss here. Then we'll go for performance parameter. Then the single phase bridge inverter with the half bridge and full bridge with different types of loads. It is resistive load and resistive inductive loads. Thereafter, we'll discuss about three-phase bridge inverter. This voltage source inverter can operate in two modes: 180-degree mode of operation and 120-degree mode of operation. Then we'll discuss the different voltage control techniques, how we are going to control the voltage across the load using this single phase inverters, like in external control of inverter and internal control of inverter. Then finally, we are going to discuss about the pulse width modulation techniques. This also comes under this voltage control techniques. It is separate topic they have mentioned in the JNT syllabus. Now, there are three PWM techniques as per your JNT syllabus: single pulse width modulation, multiple pulse width modulation, and sinusoidal pulse width modulation. Right. Finally, we are going to solve one problem in each configuration. Right. So if you see the inverter, inverter is a static device which will convert the fixed DC to a variable AC at desired voltage and frequency. So now you can see the equivalent circuit where this is our power electronic converter, which will convert the fixed DC voltage to a variable AC voltage. Right? We can also vary the frequency here by using this inverter. So now we'll see what is there inside this power electronics converter block. So obviously, as we are varying the voltage across the load, that means we are controlling the output voltage. So there should be controllable elements inside this power electronics converter block. So basically, your power electronics subject deals with the thyristors. So we will use some thyristors inside this block. Right. So, this is the input voltage, which is a constant DC. The magnitude is always constant throughout this time period T. Out of this DC, you may get the pulsating AC here. So you can say it is a rectangular waveform. Okay, but this is the main drawback of any power electronic converter, which won't give the pure AC. So the AC may be something you can see with dotted line here. So this is what our AC, so which is the expected AC, but it is not giving the pure AC here. It is a rectangular waveform. So if you avoid the harmonics in the output voltage waveform, you may get the output voltage waveform like this, which is shown here with dotted lines. Right. So there are some applications where you can use this inverter. So wherever you need variable AC from a constant DC, there you can use these inverters, right? Like variable speed AC drives. In case of induction motor, the voltage directly speed is directly proportional to voltage square. So if you vary the voltage, you can control the speed of the induction motor drive, right? Then in induction and heating also you can use, right? Aircraft power supplies, UPS. UPS consists of this is UPS. Now whenever the power supply is there, it will convert the DC into AC here, AC into DC, and DC can be stored here. Then when the power is off, if you don't have the electrical supply, then the DC can be converted into AC with the help of inverter here. So inside this UPS, we will be having rectifier as well as inverter. So because most of the domestic lights, fans, AC, cooler, they work on AC supply. Then you need to convert this stored DC into the AC here. Okay, so where there also you can use these inverters. So UPS also consists of inverter, right? Then HVDC transmission system. At the load end, we need to convert the DC into AC. There also you require these inverters. So and nowadays most of the vehicles, they are operating on battery, right? There are many advantages are there. So there you can use these inverters, which will convert the battery voltage to the AC voltage, which is required to run the drives, which is connected in the vehicle, right? So these are the few applications. Now we'll discuss about the classification of these inverters. So there are many types of inverters are there based upon different factors, right? First, according to the nature of input source. So if the source is voltage source, then we can connect voltage source inverter, right? If the source is current source, there are two sources, right? Voltage and current sources. So if the source is current source, then this inverter can work as a current source inverter. And according to the wave shape, depending on the output wave shape, just now I told you that the inverter cannot produce the pure AC voltage waveform. It can be a sphere wave, it can be a rectangular wave. So depending upon the output voltage which we are generating at the output side of the inverter, it may be a square wave inverter, it may be quasi square wave inverter, and there are PWM inverters also. There you can vary the voltage, and out of this PWM inverter, you can get almost sinusoidal kind of voltage, right? And according to the commutations, right? So these inverter again classify into two types, like line commutator inverter and forced commutator inverters. And according to the connections also, these inverters classified into three types, like series inverter, right? So when the load and the thyristor, they are connected in series, which is called series inverter, and parallel inverter. When the load and the inverter, they will come in parallel, so it is called parallel inverter, and the bridge inverters. So we'll see all these things in the forthcoming sessions, right? As I some text I have represented with red color, which is not the part of your JNT syllabus. So we'll cover the voltage source inverter, PWM inverters, right? Line commutated, force commutated inverters. Then finally we'll go through this bridge inverter also, right? Let us discuss about the voltage source inverter. So for voltage source inverter, the source should be a stiff DC voltage source, right? So first we'll discuss about single phase bridge inverter. Now out of the single phase bridge inverter, now I'm going to discuss about single phase half bridge inverter. Okay. Now with resistive load, then I will go for the RL load. Now this is the equivalent circuit for single phase half bridge inverter. If you consider the X and Y terminals, so if you measure the voltage between the terminal X and the terminal Y, you will find the voltage as VDC. So we are applying VDC voltage across the terminal X and Y, right? Now this split it into two, VDC by 2 and VDC by 2 here, because we need the center tapped connection for the load, right? So now you can see the S1 and S2 are the switches, which may be GTOs, which may be MOSFET, right? Any control device you can use, and which is connected anti-parallel to the diode. So S1 is in anti-parallel with diode D1, S2 is anti-parallel with diode D2, right? And in between this common point and this center point of this battery, you can connect a load here. Now the load is resistive load. So in case of resistive load, the output current and the output voltage should be in phase. That is what we have discussed in the rectifiers, right? Choppers, right? The input voltage is VDC by 2 here. If you see the voltage across this battery and voltage across this battery, it is VDC by 2. But if you see the voltage across the terminal X and Y, it will be VDC, right? Now, this positive is connected to here, and this negative may be connected here. Similarly, positive is connected here and negative is connected here. So if you see the bottom pair, so this is the bottom pair, S2 and D2. Now negative is connected here, positive is connected here, and here it will be positive and negative. So with respect to input supply, the diodes will be in reverse bias condition because the cathode are connected to positive and anodes are connected to negative. Similarly, you can see diode D2 also. So diodes will be in reverse bias condition, where the switches may be in forward bias condition. Even you can use the thyristors also. So thyristors are connected internally like this. Okay, so here we'll be having anode and here we'll be having cathode. So cathode is connected to negative and anode is connected to positive. So thyristor or switches, they are in forward bias condition, whereas the diode, they are in reverse bias condition when you connect the load as resistive load, right? So we can make the switches on at any instant of time. So you can make it on here, you can make it on here. That depends upon our requirement. So these are the pulses. IG1 is the gate pulse given to thyristor switch S1. IG2 is the pulse given to switch S2. Okay, and diodes are uncontrolled devices. I will tell you why we are using diode here. Now they are in reverse bias condition, though, so they may be in off state, right? So now I am dividing this into two modes. So the mode 1 will be up to T/2, and for the remaining T/2 interval, it is mode 2. So let me show you mode 1 waveforms first of all. So this is what our mode 1, where I want to make the switch S1 in on condition. So if I apply triggering pulse to S1, so you can see I am applying sufficient gate pulse to S1 for this much duration, which is of T/2 time interval. Then S1 is replaced by short circuit because I applied triggering pulse to S1. So it is replaced by short circuit. The current always leaves from positive terminal. It is leaving from VDC positive through S1 anode and cathode. Internally, they may be connected like this, and load and back to the terminal O. Now, this A is connected to positive here, whereas terminal O is connected to negative. So they comes in parallel. So voltage across the load will be VDC/2. So you can see here the voltage across the load V0, it is VDC/2, right? And since the load is resistive load, you can see the current waveform. The current waveform and the voltage waveform, they are in phase. Only the magnitude will differ. The red color is for current. So I can write output current equal to output voltage divided by R. Output voltage is VDC/2. So I can say VDC/2R. That is the voltage current to the load. Okay. Now diodes are in off condition. With respect to input supply, I told you that diodes will be in off condition. Okay. So when S1 it is in on condition, the voltage across S1 will be 1 to 2 volts. So voltage across S1 will be 1 to 2 volts, right? So now I will move on to the next mode, which is mode 2. So for remaining half of the portion, half cycle, I want to make S2 on, because S2 is also in forward bias condition with respect to input supply. So if I apply triggering pulse to S1, S1 should be in off condition. So just you can say I have removed the triggering pulse to S1, so that will goes to off state. Now I want to apply triggering pulse to S1. So S1 will be in S2 will be in on condition now. So the equivalent circuit will be something like this. It is replaced by short circuit, and the current always leaves from positive terminal. So this is positive. It is leaving from VDC/2 positive to O, load, terminal A, S2, and VDC negative. So you can see the direction of current. So previously the current is from A to O. So you are getting the positive voltage. I assume that the voltage across the load is positive. Now in mode 2, you can see the current is from O to A. So the reverse current is flowing to the load. So you will get reverse voltage across it. And Now the load terminal A is connected to VDC negative, whereas the load terminal O is connected to positive. Whereas in previous case, the load terminal A is connected to positive through switch S1, load terminal O is connected to negative. So now you can get the negative voltage across the load of magnitude VDC by 2 again. So you can say the voltage across the load is, again it is minus VDC by 2. And since the load is a resistive load, the current and the voltage they will in phase. So you can see the current waveform with the dotted red mark here. And the current you can write it as output voltage, which is minus VDC by 2 by R will give the current, right? And switch S1 it is an off condition. So even if you measure the voltage across switch S1, which is equal to VDC by 2. So you can see the voltage across the thyristor switch S1, which is positive VDC by 2. Like that, you can get AC voltage across the load, and which is not pure AC here. It is a rectangular waveform, a square waveform you can see. So this kind of waveform you can find across the load. Okay, but we need AC voltage of like this. That means we need to consider only fundamental voltage. So we'll calculate the fundamental voltage out of this square wave. Okay, now if you see the output voltage waveform, right? So symmetrically we are triggering the SCRs. So now this area during positive half cycle is equal to the area during negative half cycle. So if you take the average of this one, you will get 0. If you want to calculate the area under one complete cycle. So one complete cycle means the T interval. Okay, so even if you calculate the area under this complete cycle, you will get the 0. So the average output voltage, even if you substitute 1 by 2 pi, 0 to 2 pi, VDC into d omega t, that will give the average output voltage as 0. And you can also calculate the RMS output voltage for this waveform, right? So the RMS value, just you add root here and square the input. That will give the RMS output voltage. You can see, you can write like this. And due to the symmetrical waveform, instead of writing 0 to 2 pi, you can write 0 to pi. So to write 0 to pi, I need to add 2 here. It is 2 pi, 2 by 2 pi, right? And due to quarter wave symmetry, you can write it is 0 to pi by 2 square root of 4 by 2 pi, and the time limits are from limits are 0 to pi by 2 VDC square omega t d omega t, right? So if you integrate this thing, you will get the voltage, RMS voltage across the load is VDC by 2. Okay, so the RMS output voltage will be of value half of the input voltage. If you see that between the terminals A and B. Okay, so for this waveform, you can calculate the instantaneous output voltage. So the Fourier series you can write for the waveform, it is V naught of omega t equal to the summation n equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to infinity Cn sin n omega t plus phi n, where Cn equal to under root an square plus bn square, and phi n is the angle which is tan inverse an by bn. And just now we have seen it is a square wave symmetry. So if the square wave symmetry, I can write an equal to 0, which is 1 by pi. The limits are alpha to 2 pi v naught of omega t cos n omega t d omega t, and that will give 0. This is due to square wave symmetry. And I can write bn equal to 1 by pi integration from alpha to 0 to 2 pi v naught omega t sin n omega t d omega t. And due to quarter wave symmetry, bn will be 0 for all even values of n, but it should not be 0 for odd values of n. And if you substitute for odd values of n, you will get Bn equal to 2 VDC by N pi. Right. So this is the Bn. If you substitute here in this expression, right, since An equal to 0, this factor goes to 0. So Cn will be under root Bn square root will get cancelled. So you can write Cn equal to Bn, and now Bn equal to, if you substitute here, Cn will be 2 VDC by N pi, right? And the phi n is also 0 because An equal to 0. Tan inverse 0 means it will 0. So the instantaneous output voltage now V naught of omega t will be the summation n equal to 1, 3, 5, because we'll get the output voltage only when the value of n is odd. So it is up to infinity. Instead of Cn, I can write 2 VDC by N pi and sine n omega t. Right, the nth harmonic component is given by V naught of n equal to Cn by root 2. So if you substitute here root 2, you will get the Cn equal to V naught of n equal to 2 VDC by n into pi under root 2. Now you can calculate the fundamental value of output voltage by substituting n equal to 1. So in the expression, in this expression, if I substitute n equal to 1 here, it will be 2 VDC divided by pi root 2. So if you calculate this value, it will be 0.45 times VDC, right? So this is the fundamental output voltage. If I substitute n equal 3 here, it will be third harmonic component. If I substitute n equal 5, it will be fifth harmonic component. Like that, you can calculate any harmonic content in the output voltage waveform, because the output voltage waveform is not a pure sinusoidal waveform. It is something like this, right, which consists of all odd harmonic. So if you remove those harmonic, your output voltage may be something like this, which is the fundamental output voltage. So which means this consists of the harmonics. Right? The remaining portion is consist of harmonic, and you can measure those harmonics by substituting n equal 3, 5, 7, 9 like this, right? So now the RMS output voltage, the fundamental RMS output voltage is 0.45 times VDC. Okay, this is with R load. Now we will replace the load with RL. So nothing, just we are replacing the load with R and L, resistance and inductive load. And you can see here S1 and D1, they are in anti-parallel. S2, D2, they are in anti-parallel. So if you measure the voltage across the terminal X and Y, it will be VDC here. The same thing which we have discussed in the last slide, right? Now, in case of resistive load, we have seen that diodes are in off condition, because with respect to input supply, diodes are in reverse bias condition and they will be in off condition, right? So now the load is R and L. They will come into picture. We'll see how the diodes comes into picture. Now, you know, in case of resistive load, the load is always drawing power from the supply. It is a resistance, it is a heat dissipative element. So it's always try to extract power from the source. And the power is drawing from the source only through the switches, either through S1 or through S2. Right? It is always, the load is always drawing power from the source. That is why the diode, there is no need of diodes there. Right? Now the load is resistive and inductive load. That means inductor is the energy storage element. So whenever the load is connected to source, it will store certain amount of energy, which is called half Li square. Now, when the load is disconnected from the supply, then the load may supply, the load may inject some power into the source, or load may feed power back to the source. So during that interval, let us say if the load is feeding power back to the source, now it is either through D1 or through G2. So that is called, that is why these diodes are called feedback diodes. They will feed power back to the supply when the load is other than resistive load. Like in case of RL load, in case of RC load, these diodes will play the role to transfer the power from load to source. Right? That is why these diodes are called feedback diodes. Now they will come into picture. Just now in the last slide we have seen when this terminal A is connected to here, we'll get positive voltage across the load. When this terminal A is connected to here, we'll get negative voltage across the load. And we have seen the voltage when terminal A is connected to positive, it is VDC by 2. When terminal A is connected to negative, we'll get minus VDC by 2. We have seen those things in the last slide, right? And we have also seen that when the load is resistive load, the current and the voltage, they are in phase. The output current and the output current voltage, they are in phase. That is why diodes are not playing any role to transfer the power. Now here the load is RL, which means in addition to the resistance, it is having the inductor, right? If the load is pure inductive load, even though it is pure inductive load, there is a some internal resistance it may offer, right? So when let us say the load is pure inductive load, in case of pure inductive